I'm Joe Normal, and you're watching Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen and Scott Guitar Masenko. Have a rockin' day.
We look so young and handsome in that picture. Now we're old and gray. Welcome to season 7, everyone. We're very excited about this one. This is one of my favorite things to do. Scott and I will be talking about what we've done. And we want to thank all the folks who got us through season 6. We're in season 7 now. And one of the earlier season guests, Charles Larita over at Mischief Studios, he's still our sponsor, and we're greatly appreciative for the support we get for Mischief Studios. They have everything you need in Pennington, New Jersey. That says lessons, recordings, and repairs. They also sell instruments. Fabulous place. Scott went and visited there. He had some work done. So thanks so much for the support of our friend Charles Larita of Mischief Studios. 2023, I can't believe I'm talking to you in 2024, was the best year in the history of Guitar Tales. Maybe my favorite part of that year was the fantastic announcement that Scott now co-hosts all the shows with us now. That's my favorite part. And he's in the metaphoric green room cheering like this, which is really noteworthy. We counted 18 guests, which was just more than we've ever had in any season at all. And with that, Scott, why don't you come in? We just have to hit the ground running on this one.
I'm going to give you the high sign, everybody. Does anybody know what this is? Do you know the high sign?
No.
Oh.
No, I don't.
All right. Well, it's from the Little Rascals. It doesn't matter. If you're listening on your iPhone,
yeah,
right, or your
one of these things,
what is it? Apple iPlay.
Apple Play.
That's what I'm
Play.
trying to say.
Yeah,
I sound incredibly unhip right now.
You do, and you are.
Where you could listen to us, you could watch us if you so dare on YouTube.
Oh, you could do this. Wait, let's see. Hey Siri, play Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen.
Can't hear it.
Right, it's playing, but we can't hear it
because the volume is
there.
down.
It is. There's the Eddie Van Halen tribute show playing right now.
That's a great show.
See, it's that easy.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I have the sound off, but you could do that, and you could do it with an Amazon speaker too.
Yeah, I do it all the time because I actually listen to our shows, believe it or not.
I do too.
I listen to them more often when I'm on it. But
yeah. Now, Aaron just yelled at me in the pre-show for slurping. I will try not to.
Oh, I'm doing dry January. I'm having a decaf tea. How exciting is that?
It is. So, I listen to the show all the time, but here's one of the things before we really launch into all the guests, and I'm going to probably to some extent follow your lead because you have all sorts of really, really great clips in front of us. Here's something I've noticed. So we started the show a drop less than 4 years ago. Oh, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, because we started in 2019.
Yeah.
We would do a show. I think I loved and remain proud of our content. I really do. And you and I would get excited. Wow, we had 4 or 5 people watch. And by the way, that is not hyperbole. That is, you and I would get excited if we have 10 or 15 views.
I know.
We get reports now, and on Facebook it'll say you've reached 750,000 people this month.
That's unbelievable.
1 month. So before we even thank our guests, just the folks who appreciate what we appreciate, that's where the thanks really belongs.
Yeah, we're doing it for you guys. It's totally a labor of love. I mean, I think YouTube sent us a check for $45 last month.
Yeah. Well, I saw you sent me $12 the other day. I had to
divide in half and then pay off a couple of things.
Yeah, yeah.
I have 19 shows on the list here that we did in 2023.
Oh, we did 19.
Yeah, well, some of them were maybe it was 18 shows, but some of them were what we call intermezzo shows, right? We started doing shows just you and I to kind of bridge the gap between guests. And in the learning curve, you find out, as the guy that gets a lot of the guests, I found out that the more famous you are, the longer it takes to nail down a guest, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up with these long pauses between shows, and we're like, we got to do something, because every time Dave and I get on the phone, everybody,
Yeah.
we are basically doing a show.
It is. We have to hang up on each other because
Don't talk. Don't talk.
we're doing a show. We did it today. We were talking about something and we had to hang up on each other. I was out with a friend the other night and we were talking about the Stones and the Who.
Right.
And she said, you can't really compare. The Stones are in rarefied air, or the Beatles, I'm sorry. And then you have everyone else. And I said, we're doing a show.
Yeah, exactly. Abort.
That's right. Yeah, it's true.
So in 2023, the short version of the story is, well, actually, in 2022, we had the Tone King on, who spoke very highly of the great Phil X, who we all know and love, who's now playing guitar for Bon Jovi for quite a number of years now, maybe like 12 years or something. But anyway, he told us in the interview that Phil was a guy you'd want to have a beer with. So we took that clip and we put it up there, and Phil saw it.
Right.
And then one thing led to another, and he goes, I would love to be on your show. And we were totally like,
which was
okay. And I'm thinking, there's no way we're going to get him, and he'll probably drag his feet, and he has management. We'll have to go through email after email. Well, it turned out that we got it together very, very quickly, and he was excited to do the show. So he was our very first guest of 2023. It was like a big announcement.
Yep.
And
he's a two-timer. He's a two-timer with us.
Yeah, and then he came back and did the Van Halen special. He was only too excited and happy to talk about the great Eddie Van Halen. He's sort of a Eddie Van Halen aficionado and an Eddie Van Halen asshole, self-proclaimed. He said that he calls people out that don't play his shit right or have a terrible tone, or and he talked about that on the show, and that was really candid and enlightening and a lot of fun. And we even got Mike Anthony.
That's what I was about to say.
Comment about some of the shots that we had.
It was so cool. So Scott texts me shortly after we did our show, and he was shaking. Scott was shaking, and soon I was. And he said, Michael Anthony, I think he gave us an emoji or he hit a like or something that.
He commented on Phil. He was basically commenting to Phil because Phil and Mike sort of know each other and they've jammed together and stuff.
Yeah. But he knows we exist.
Exactly.
So 1/4 of Van Halen, the original lineup, knows that this show exists. And you and I were on cloud nine an entire day like little kids.
And there's no way he probably saw it. But of course, through Instagram messaging, and he probably gets thousands and thousands of messages every day. But I did put out there, open invite. If you ever want to come on, talk about cars and hot sauce and stuff. One of the things we do on the show, Dave, as you know, is we don't really, a lot of times we won't hone in on what somebody's particularly famous for.
No.
We like to hear some backstory. What did you do before you were in Van Halen? Or, I don't know what we would talk to Michael about, but it wouldn't be an all Van Halen show. We'd be more interested in his rise to fame as an individual artist and what he's up to now with his hot sauces and everything.
Yeah, and we had I can't mention the show because I'm about to diss another interviewer, but we had a show that we were both very excited about, so we were prepping for it, and I saw an interview of this same guest, and it's basically like they took the resume and just read through it. So you did this in 1971, and then you did this in 1975. What happened? And it was very boring.
Well, I know what I like. I know what I like to watch. I mean, I'm a huge Van Halen fan. I feel like I know all the Van Halen stories already.
Yeah.
I want to know what goes on. And we're going to talk about Paul Nelson, who was on our show, who's a Grammy-winning blues artist, blues guitar player who played many years with Johnny Winter.
Right.
And every interview I've seen with Paul, no disrespect, was all about him and Johnny. How is Johnny? What's Johnny like? What about Paul Nelson?
Right. And he turned out to be a great guy. And
he had a lot
phenomenal guy. Yeah.
And
he gave us the insights into what it's like to travel and be at a lot of medium-sized venues and what that world is like.
Tour list. This tour is like insane.
Yeah, and he works so hard, that gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And as all the guests, he starts the show as a stranger and he walks out as a friend.
Right. Yeah. We've been invited. We haven't gone to any of these shows yet, but we do get invited to hang out backstage. I want to see Becky Baldwin in the UK. That's a trip I'd like to make.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun.
And her band Fury.
Yeah, or we both want to see Plush. We
Of
keep
course,
missing them when
Mariah
they come to
Famika and
Jersey.
Plush, yeah.
A two-time guest.
Always on a work weekend. Always can't go for one reason or another. And this year will be no different. They're on tour again, and they're coming to town, and I will be busy. Maybe you can go.
April 25th in, I believe, Newark. I will try to go.
Yeah.
But I saw that come up, and I know when they were at Atlantic City, if I look out that window, I could see Atlantic City from where I live, and I wasn't able to make it.
Right, and that's something.
A handful of months ago. But yeah, they would be great.
So let's start with Phil and work our way down the list.
And
we could talk about Mariah and Becky and everybody else and Paul. So when we got Phil on, we would be amiss if we didn't talk about Bon Jovi at all. I mean, we did delve into a little bit, how he got the gig and what happened. But I think you asked the question, were you overwhelmed? What did you at any point?
Oh, right.
Say,
yep. Mm-hmm.
I can't do this. This is crazy. Who the hell can sub for Sambora? That's nuts. I can't do it. And he had a moment. And we do have a video clip for us here. Let's have a look at that.
This is way too much work, and I might not even get called. I'm gonna be this guy on the side that is there just in case.
You were the understudy,
right? So as that happened, I was like, screw it, I'm not doing it. Throw the guitar down, put the TV on, put HBO on, and there's a Bon Jovi documentary.
Wow.
So that was the sign.
That was
okay. Yeah, I guess I'm doing it.
Okay.
And John called and said, "Hey, Phil," and I didn't answer the phone because it was a strange number, right? Unknown.
Right.
And then the messages, Phil X, John Bon Jovi calling. I'm calling. Coming back.
That was great.
I just laughed again.
Yeah.
I love assuming he's not embellishing the story, which I bet he's not.
No, I
I'm
guarantee
calling.
John called.
I'm calling.
He said, I might call you or something. I think he told us in the interview. And then, it was a weird number, so he didn't answer. And it was John, like the most important phone call of the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the Henry Vaccaro story, which we talked a little bit about on the Van Halen episode, although much more when we had the full Henry Vaccaro interview, or just a chance meeting.
Yeah, I have that
in an airport.
We're going to play that clip.
We are good. All right, so I won't ruin it then. Hey, by the way, I don't know if I told you this about, speaking of John Bon Jovi. Let's see. Today is the 14th. So in 11 days, I get my training to volunteer in the John Bon Jovi Soul Kitchen.
Wow.
So assuming they don't reject me for being too old, I'll be volunteering there to cook for folks.
I don't know if there's an age requirement, but you're certainly not too old to help your fellow man, David.
All right, good. Well, I'm all excited. I actually took one online class and got a certificate. And whenever I'm not lawyering and doing this, hopefully I can go over there and do some cooking for folks who are in need. So I'm excited about that. But
that's cool.
So that's just in 11 days from when we're taping right now.
Planting yourself in the Bon Jovi camp and helping out.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah.
So after Phil, we had Mariah Famika, who we mentioned earlier in the show. Super talented singer, just off the charts. Super nice and amazing and down to earth. And her band Plush is really become an acorn and is growing into a tree, right?
I think if you're having a conversation about the best young hard rock acts in the United States, 100% of the time they will be in the conversation now. Probably in the top 2 or 3 in the country right now.
Yeah, I think we're following the trajectory of her career is really amazing. And their cover of Heart's Barracuda is blowing up.
And it's that good. So, and speaking of that, if you're watching this show, just Google it, Plush Barracuda cover. Mm-hmm. It has the right balance between putting just a little bit of their own flavor into it, but being so respectful of the instrumentation and the vocals of the original that it's a tribute, but it is Plush. It's not a cover band doing it. It is Plush, but it's just amazing to me how they found the perfect balance for it. And I've listened to it a handful of times.
Her voice is, I mean, I'm not going to lie, her voice is
Yeah.
reminiscent of a young Nancy Wilson.
It really is. It's off the charts good.
Is Nancy Wilson? I get them confused sometimes. Ann
It's
Wilson.
Ann and Nancy.
Sorry.
I always forget which one.
Nancy's the guitar player.
Yeah. Hey,
Ann
before we do the clip,
yeah.
do you, I know you've seen it when those two do Stairway to Heaven at Kennedy Honors.
Oh, amazing.
Are you capable of not tearing up when you watch it when they focus in on Robert Plant and he has like that little tear coming?
It's a weird thing. Like it's always something gets in my eye. It must be the environment that I'm watching.
It is. It's just there's a lot of wind in your living room when you're watching.
I like when he goes this with his finger under his nose. Like I don't know what that does.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to stop it.
That doesn't stop you from crying.
No, not me anyway.
Mariah is also involved in the TSO tour, Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour.
A big deal.
We surprised her with a little clip from her show, and she was humble and embarrassed to watch it, but we put it on anyhow. So
and it was so cute.
This is the clip.
Yeah. TSO performance. One of your TSO performances, Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Because really, we're gonna go there.
Oh, we're going right there. We are, Mariah. We just went right there. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Are you actually blushing?
No.
That high note at the end gives me the chills.
Yeah, I got them just
I'm
now.
gonna start doing this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're not crying right now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And I'm proud of us because the origin of Mariah was that we both saw her on the internet. She had a clip with someone else, and they had 2 or 3 million views. You went and got her as a guest, which was just absolutely amazing. And
I didn't think we were going to be able to get her either. Because these rising stars, they're so busy trying to make it and get on the footprint of America. That they're often touring harder and heavier and working harder than established artists in many cases, I think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And they have so much at stake. And there's different kinds of guests we have. And we take it very seriously here. We'll have guests like, season 1, maybe the second or third guest we had was Nixon's Head. And they're folks who are our age, and they've been, the band has a bunch of EPs and straight up albums. But if they had a bad interview, it's okay because they're not reliant upon success at every single interview. And then we have guests on where, we recognize, like a Mariah Formica and so many others we've had, where this is their only career. This is their main career. Yeah. And you and I mean, Scott works so hard behind the scenes to get the clips, to get the pictures. Oh, thank you. The research. I mean, I'll do a little research, but Scott does more. And when we have the guests, I mean, we do it with all guests, but especially those folks where we want to make sure that, we give them a platform to showcase how wonderful they are. It's as critical as any important work event for anyone who's watching.
Absolutely.
And Mariah, we took that very seriously.
We asked her to do a cover of Walking on Sunshine by Katrina the Waves. I don't know how we came across that. I'm every time she posts something, I'm like, where's my Katrina and the Waves song? It
would be so great if they would plush with
remember, everybody, if they do that song, if they cover that song, it becomes a huge hit, which I know it will.
Yeah.
Dave and I want credit on the back of the record.
That's right. We do. We do want credit. That's right.
Speaking of young guns and young rockin' females, we had Liz Roberts of Girl Bossa Nova on after that. And tell us the backstory how we got Liz.
So I went. I know some family members of Liz, and I went to see her band at the infamous Stone Pony. Have you ever been there, Scott?
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, Scott's played there many, many times. So has the boss and Southside Johnny. It's. I've been to the Whiskey a Go Go and other great venues. This is my favorite venue I've ever been to. So I saw Liz Roberts over at Girl Bossa Nova over at the Stone Pony, and I was so appreciative of the theme that we've talked about on this show, and it was just on Facebook. Scott was eliciting some really great questions, and my old friend Nicole Longo did a bunch of responses, and she listed a bunch of great semi-younger bands who are sort of carrying the flame or the torch. Yeah. But Liz is a kid. She's not the youngest we've had, but she's maybe 22, something like that, and her bandmates are similar in age.
I think Sierra Levique wins the award for youngest.
She's the youngest, right? I couldn't get her name. Thank you.
Years old or something.
Yeah, she's
another artist that's really.
And she learns under Bumblefoot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron is her guitar teacher.
Yeah. so I went to see them, and they were raw. It was probably 70% originals. And then when they did covers, they were interesting covers of, not atypical stuff, but they are a real band. They're self-effacing. They have great lyrics. And every so often, and they were always good, they really were. But every so often their rhythm section would just, they would just be in a zone. And it was really cool to watch for young folks. And it was just driving. It would really drive. And they've got aggressive vocals. Liz is fantastic on guitar. And it was just really nice to see. The show, and we'll play. I don't even know what the clip is yet, and that's okay.
I don't have unfortunately, I don't have a clip of Liz's.
Oh, that's okay. But
I don't know why I couldn't find one. I know we have one. I just couldn't find it.
Oh, that's fine. But here's what was really cool about that show. Because, Liz is 22. We did a Van Halen show where, the folks in Van Halen, upper 60s right now, those who are still with us, right? Mm-hmm. And we ended up having a really good side discussion about misogyny, mm-hmm. And the way women are treated and have been treated. And although it's better now, in the world of rock, it ain't fixed.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and so here I have a very young person on the show who gave us some really wonderful insights into what it's like to be a young woman as opposed to a young man who's making her way in rock and roll and not doing it in the way, like an old Scorpion video kind of way or something like that, or a Lita Ford kind of way. And no disrespect to Lita Ford, but times are different now. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it the right way, but it's a challenge. And, I went into the interview almost expecting on my end to do the kind of interview that I just criticized about 15 minutes ago on this show, where I just sort of worked my way down a resume and we called it a day. And that's not where we went.
Oh, well, that's the beauty of the show. Every once in a while, we tap into something that we didn't see coming. And a lot of those shows, I was behind the scenes and I was sending you little notes and stuff.
Oh, you always do, and you correct me when I'm wrong.
Which is easier now that I'm actually on screen.
I know. You're going to say, Dave, you're fucking up. I had to have at least one bad word today.
That's okay.
Liz was
refreshing. She was fantastic, and now I don't listen to male rock and roll lyrics the same way anymore.
There's some bad male lyrics.
She doesn't ruin it for me, but I go, ooh, if I was a chick, that's a little.
Oh, you mean like the Beatles? She was just 17. That's
17. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after we had Liz on, we had a marvelous electric violinist and really an accomplished musician. Just Juilliard level. I think we did go there, right?
Oh yes, he did go to Juilliard high school or middle school. Juilliard. Yeah.
Dorian was on this year, and he alluded to a story that goes, wow, I don't know if I should tell this story. And he did.
It was amazing.
Which we'll talk about after we view this clip, where he lays eyes on the very first electric guitar. He had a very structured childhood where he wasn't allowed to listen to certain kind of music.
A strong mom.
Yeah, he
that's
was
what
only
I
allowed
remember.
to listen to classical, and they were kind of gearing him towards this life of a classical musician, and rock and roll had other plans. And here's
like right out of a movie.
And I had a friend who got an electric guitar for his 13th birthday, and I remember going over to his house, and he was showing it to me, and it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And the reason that it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen is because my upbringing was so strict that I wasn't even allowed to listen to anything other than classical music.
Gotcha.
Like, it was pretty, like, that's extreme, right? And
it is.
The only thing that I knew before I started to like venture outside of the boundaries that my parents had set was like they had some Simon and Garfunkel records.
Okay.
Record collection. And I was like, wow, that kind of has a beat, And I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. So when they would go out and like put those records on.
I mean, that is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's the coolest thing he's ever seen.
It is. And the story, he shared with us a story he had never shared with anyone.
Right. Yeah, go ahead. You can tell it.
Yeah. So he sees this amazing guitar at his school. So he is at Juilliard, or I don't think it was a Juilliard type school.
I think it might have been a high school.
Yeah, it was Juilliard Prep, or
he was riding his bike to school or something. Yeah,
right. So he takes an electric guitar, puts it in a garbage bin.
Take would be another word. Steal would be another.
Steal might be a fair characterization. And he secrets it home via bicycle. And then when mom and dad, or mom isn't around, he's secretly playing.
Yeah, he's hiding the guitar in the closet.
Yeah, it was like Footloose,
Unbelievable story.
And then he eventually did get caught, and they found their piece. But he did say that he finally, I think she heard him playing, or she found the guitar. But he stole an electric guitar. So talk about love of rock and roll. And I'll share with you my favorite observation, or my favorite memory.
I think he did give it back, though.
He did give it back.
And then he got his own guitar.
Yeah. My favorite takeaway, that's the word. My favorite takeaway from that show, you saw the clip. That guy looks like he's right out of Hollywood. He's like model handsome. And he has the face of almost like a high school like quarterback who's like mean to everyone. And I had this expectation that he wouldn't be a nice, vulnerable human being.
Right.
And we were still interested in having him on because he's off the charts talented. Right. He scores movies and things like that. Well,
again, this is one of our hallmarks that we have people you never heard of. I mean, I discovered Dorian just scrolling around on the internet and TikTok and stuff. I'm like, who is this guy? He's fantastic.
He's so good.
He's fantastic. And then we took a look at him. He's like, yeah, I'll come on and talk about electric violin. We use a guitar show. I'm like, don't worry about that. We're trying to expand a little bit.
Right. And he turns out to be a sweet, soft-spoken, vulnerable guy.
You've got to check out his videos. They're amazing.
Oh my God.
All their guests are amazing. And we promoted a lot of live videos of a lot of our talented guests.
Oh yeah.
So then after Dorian, we went and did something we took a while to work on, because the guy that was coming on is a very busy fella, Tom Jannarone, who's also the drummer of the band I'm in called the Smoking Jackets.
Limitless Energy.
He's a restaurateur. He's a lawyer. He's
a drummer.
Really busy. Yeah.
That too, in your band.
Right. So we decided putting together this thing we call Law of the Band.
It was such a good show. Yeah.
We went almost 2 hours.
No, we went over 2 hours.
I don't know. It was long. We had to break it up. 220. We broke the show up into 2 parts, I think.
We did.
Just a ton of information and a lot of things that, people in bands don't think of. If you suddenly get famous, how are you going to divvy out the money? And contracts and naming the band and trademarks, and he covered so much material.
Amazing. Anywhere is there someone with that degree of hands-on knowledge? You can have it for the Stones, the Who, the King. Those are dated references, but you know what I mean. Matchbox 20 is a dated reference already. But That was a weird reference.
Yeah.
But he has it for the bands who will do our show, for the bands who, won't do our show anymore. But his knowledge base is off the charts.
And it was cool because it was
Yeah.
two lawyers talking law,
Yeah.
but dumbing it down for the rest of us dummies like me who may not know the legal jargon, so to speak. And you guys did an amazing
thank you.
job with that show. This clip is funny because it brings up the fictitious Bob's Ale House.
Yes, which is in our merch store.
If you go to a merch store, you can get a Bob's Ale House pint glass.
Which doesn't exist, right?
Bob's doesn't exist. No, there's no such thing as Bob's Ale House. But
what
Tom
was
referring to, and now I see it all the time that he's mentioned it on the show,
yeah,
videos with no crowds.
Yes.
Bands promoting themselves with a video. The music is great. The energy is great. The band may even sound great and look great, but there's nobody there.
And if you own a bar, will you invite them to play?
Yeah.
You won't.
So let's take a look at this clip. I think you'll enjoy it. Bob's Ale House. I put a couple of graphics on there when we did this. It was really funny.
I love it.
Videos with crowds.
Yeah, I know. You see the empty room. Yeah.
God. I get, probably 2 or 3 a day I get. And of course, right before summer, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And they'll actually take the time, like the video will be titled, "Killing It at Bob's Ale House."
Right.
With 13 exclamation marks. And you click on the link, you're like, oh man, this might be a band I miss. You click on a link, and there's 5 musicians. They're not on stage, which is fine. So it's a small room. And someone's taking a video, and they're leaning against the bar, and there's not one soul.
It's so great.
I literally just saw a video yesterday at a club near here. The band was fantastic.
Right.
There was one person videoing the band with their phone. Must have been their father, husband, or son, or friend, or whatever.
Right.
And one girl dancing, which is probably the girlfriend or somebody in the band. And when I say empty, nobody else was on the dance floor. There was 10 feet between them and the rest of the room, and that it was, you couldn't see anybody. There was no one there. Incredible.
Well, it's you have songwriting, musicianship, but you have marketing.
Mm-hmm.
My dad has 19 patents to his name.
That's unbelievable.
And I remember as a kid when you and I used to hang out in the O section in Mattawan.
Yes.
He invented the racing dynamometer, which was designed for race car drivers to measure their torque when they would be pulling out from a stop. Brilliant idea. And he's brilliant, but the marketing wasn't there. It never really found its audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so the band that you're describing, or the band Tommy's describing, great musicians, maybe great sound. Maybe they have the best sound person ever, right? If they have originals, but marketing is such an important component. For me as a lawyer during the day, that's my real job. I could practice great law, but if I can't make the phone ring, I'm not practicing law for any clients.
Exactly.
Marketing is critical.
Yeah, know your room and all that. And there was tons of that kind of thing in there. And that's a common theme on our show. We've had experts on our show. We'll get to Grumpy Sound Guy.
Yeah, he was great.
He had a lot to say.
I follow him. Yeah.
We did the band amendments. My dad's band amendments were funny, but they had an anchor in the truth and pretty helpful. So after,
hey, Scott, wait. I got to interrupt you. Hey, Scott, if someone wants to start looking for all this stuff, where will they find it?
What do you mean, our show?
Well, I mean, so in other words, let's say someone's watching, right?
Yes.
And they're let's say Liz Roberts is watching, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, you know what? I want to watch the Tommy Jannarone show and get some tips. How do they sort of surf around and find our various shows?
YouTube. Really easy.
There you go. Yep.
Is that where you were going?
Yeah, it is. It is.
No, and again, the audio is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, everywhere and anywhere. We're on Audacity. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes.
Audible. Yeah.
Amazon Music even. So
yeah.
Everywhere.
Apple Music.
Oh, somebody jumped in? Tommy Jannarone just jumped in.
Oh wow! Look at that. Let's come into the room. The timing is perfect.
We were literally just talking about Law of the Band just now.
Just this very second. You don't look like a lawyer right now.
No, I look like a Kiss fan.
You get disbarred?
Well, I should be, but they can't find me.
There you go. I don't look like a lawyer today either.
You just played the clip of you talking about Bob's Ale House, which was great, and having videos with crowds. And I was just saying, not to reiterate for everybody that's been listening to the show thus far, but how I keep seeing video after video after video now. Like I can't look away.
Empty rooms. Yeah.
One video after another.
Yeah,
and the bands are great. That's the thing that sucks.
Empty rooms. I think that people that put together those videos should work for flooring companies, because they have some. I see all sorts of great videos of hardwood floors.
I thought you said foreign companies.
That's what I thought too. Now I get it.
Flooring companies, ladies and
flooring, yes.
Now, for our audience, because Scott and I are laughing right now because of the timing. So, we're what we call live on tape, which means we're not live, but we're just on tape. So Scott sent some emails out to some of our guests, and because we're very chill on this show, we said just hop online and join us if you'd like. So the reason why Scott and I were just so surprised is that it's great that Tommy joined us, but he joined us literally seconds after we were talking about him, which, if statistically speaking, and it wasn't. We have 19 shows to talk about, maybe 18. Scott and I can't count.
Yeah, and we're only on number 5.
But you came in literally exactly when we were just talking about you, as though it were planned.
That's why everything.
It is. It is.
I saw the email and I said, "Oh, that's going to be a problem. I need to be part of that."
Yeah, stick around.
Well, you're more than welcome
as you want. Yeah.
I will,
you could triple host with us.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all about that. I'm sitting here reading my latest legal treatise.
And I'm drinking a mini bottle of wine right now.
And I'm still dry. I was just telling him how boring it is being dry. And all my friends are drunken assholes. I just figured out because I've been so sober for so many days now.
So what is our next clip, Scott? Let's have Tommy comment with us.
The guy we had on the show after the Law of the Band was Matt Bradford. Speaking of sober, Matt was celebrating his sobriety the day he came on the show.
That's right.
And we, as sort of a tribute to that and being mindful of that and respectful of that, we did not drink
during the show.
During that show.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, not alcoholic beverage. Of course, we had something to drink. We didn't want to, be dehydrated.
I think I made chamomile tea for that show. But it was a really cool thing. It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And, I'm an English breakfast guy myself.
Oh, I like that stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
They have a little caffeine going on in there, which is nice. Yeah.
So Matt builds his own lap steel. So this is a completely different kind of guitar player, and I think he was just fantastic. So we have a little clip of him jamming, as it were, for us. He made a little clip. He was so cool.
Yeah.
And of course we had that clip up there.
That's a slide, yep.
Yeah.
And we had haters going, "That sounds like noise,"
He's so good.
He can't please everybody, I guess.
He puts a lot of content out there, and I have this internal rule just for me. Like it's so easy to just hit like, when something pops up. I will not hit like until I listen to what he does, because it sort of forces me. His content, meaning that's all it is. He doesn't talk. He doesn't say anything. He just plays a little clip like that. His work is amazing. And if you look at his head movement, he gets into his zone for 20, 30, 40 seconds, and then he's done. And his playing, it's kind of like Larkin Poe, but he has his own little sort of twist on it.
Yeah.
And I love that I've created this sort of rule for myself, because it forces me to take a little time out of my day to listen, and it's wonderful, the shit he does.
And after Brad, we had Paul Nelson on. We talked about earlier in the show. Paul's a Grammy-winning blues guitar player who played many years with the great Johnny Winter. They toured all over the world.
He's with Buddy Guy now, right?
He plays with he'll play different venues and guys will just come up and jam with him. Like he's that kind of guy. Like famous blues guys know who he is and want to get in on jamming with him because he's just phenomenal. So I know that they were on David Letterman, and in David's notes I said I would like to ask him, what's it like to play the Letterman show? Do you get to rehearse when you get there? How do you set up? They just throw you on and play. It's taped for broadcast. Do they edit it? And this is what he had to say. It was really interesting.
Pre-interviewed for that, or how did that go?
Nope. You just show up, you rehearse a little bit, and it's taped, but it's live. In other words,
live on tape.
They don't. You make a mistake, it's on.
Right.
And they told us that a band the night before came on, and the bass player did a split and ripped his pants, and they kept it. So
that's great.
I was like, wow, thanks for letting me know that. I really feel confident.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, they just throw you up there and you do your thing and you get off and you're off the stage and that's the end of that.
Well, I want to pull Tommy into this. So Tommy, you run among other venues, Bar A, right? And I've been there. Like I was there when we had that wonderful charity night. I think we were hanging out together. And you were responsible. What did they have? Like 10 bands, 15 bands that night? It was some crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're doing that, when you're organizing when you're setting up, you're a producer, really, right?
Yes.
How do you deal with the various personalities who want more time to be ready than you can give them in light of the event?
Well, what you do is you don't ask them, you tell them, and you just know through years of experience. As long as you know, some bands take longer than others.
Right?
Can you share equipment? Well, a lefty drummer and a righty drummer, it's going to be a much tougher share. It's going to require a lot more. Do they have keyboards? What's the stage plot like? So the secret is you kind of know how much time it's going to take between bands, and you just need to know how long it's going to take each band based on their personnel, their instruments. But if you're going to do anything that has a lot of bands, putting in a back line usually speeds things along the best. It's about preparation. If you can't wing it. You got to be prepared and say, hey, look, you guys have 20 minutes and we stay on schedule. And
right.
And you know what? I tell you right now, you don't run into that a band playing over and over and you have to give someone the hook. You would think that would happen, but it's happened very, very rarely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And being involved in a band that has done some of those things, I'm mindful that either I'm going to share the back line with the other guys, or if I'm bringing my own stuff, it's got to be small, quick, and I got to get off right away.
Well, and speaking to what the guest was just saying, Scott, if you recall, when we did the charity thing with the smoking jackets at the Pony, during COVID, the video.
Yeah.
You guys were great in that, by the way.
Well, they said, all right, we set up. We took longer to set up than we did to play.
Yeah.
And I believe, what did we do?
Boys are back in town.
In a minute. What was that?
Boys are back in town.
Well, yeah, boys are back in town. I remember it's like, all right, you got to rehearse. Well, no, we're going to tape it. And we played the song twice. We're like, okay, it's great.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, but I messed up. All right, goodbye.
Yeah. What? We're done. We're off the stage. Another man came in.
So David and I, we talked about these intermezzo shows where it's shows in between shows when we're having lag time between guests, which is happening again a little more often, considering the level of our guests is getting higher. So the level of our guests are busier and it's hard to nail down dates. Plus I was sick and Dave was sick and Dave was away. And that's why we're putting it together a show today, which is running much longer than I thought it would, but we might have to see what happens. We did something called fake bands. We covered, at the risk of being shut down and silenced because of copyright, we took very, very, very small snippets of fake bands, and we talked about some of the greatest fake bands of all time, including this one. So do you know where the fun is, David?
I want to find out where the fun is, Scott.
Right,
that's what I would like.
I'll tell you where it is. Have no bodies under those washers.
No. They're having fun. I'm digging
That's
that.
the way outs. That's the way outs were part of the Flintstones. And I put a little blurb here. So I add little blurbs and things and different information about each little artist, and we covered.
So I'm cringing.
Everything from the Mosquitoes to the Brady Bunch to the Partridge Family. We covered just about every fake band you can think of.
Yeah.
What about the Banana Bunch?
We had them.
Banana Splits.
Banana Splits, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And
Tra-la-la.
I'm cringing right now. I sounded like I was broadcasting from a linoleum bathroom.
We definitely increased our game with the microphones and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about copyright. We'll throw the lawyer hat on because if you're using the music and you're speaking of the music, so you're not using it for those purposes. It's an exception to the copyright law. You're just like the news. The news can broadcast about a Bon Jovi concert and comment about it while You Give Love a Bad Name's playing. So
that makes perfect sense. So it's interesting, and I think it's why I know Tommy does this and I do this too. I stay in my lane. I sue nursing homes for a living, and I don't know copyright law.
Right.
And that, but my lawyer brain, when I hear Tommy explain that, oh my God, does it make sense? So
we're going to skip over the next one because we're running long here. We did a cheap guitars episode where we talked about the value that you can get in some guitars that are inexpensive, that are talking about $150 guitars. And we were able to put up QR codes to order directly from Amazon and so forth. So that was really neat. A lot of people seem to enjoy that. And there's Dave's cheap guitar.
Back to your roots, Scott, right?
Completely unplayable.
Look at how it's separating. $25. But it's a 1937.
Talking to the mic, genius.
Sorry. That was good. That's a clip. $25 Orpheum guitar written by hand right here.
That's crazy.
From 1937.
Yeah, the computer must have been broken in 37. That's why I do it by hand.
That's right. The 3D printers weren't working. That's right.
Probably got radium in the paint.
Scott's going to be an asshole. He's going to make that a clip, isn't he? Get in front of the mic.
I saw him looking over.
Our next guest following the Cheap Guitars episode was one of our fan favorites, Joe Normal. Love the name, love the music.
He's great.
We put up a video of his called Small Town Factory that he filmed outside the Singer Factory in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I think that's where it is. Or was. It actually recently burned down, and Joe was in contact with us. He was kind of upset because
his dad worked there.
Factory played a big part in his life as a kid and everything. So here he is talking about his video and song Small Town Factory on our show.
And then one of the things that I picked up on that you did with the video, you made the factory a character in your video, not just your song. And I love the way you told your story, not just through the music, not just through your lyrics, but through showing us that character, that factory. It's Joe Normal. It's not. It was very cool.
I appreciate what you have to say about the video. My dad worked in the factory. A lot of our dads worked in the factories. Our parents did. So to us, the factory was like this place that we dreaded. It was like the final destination for our lives if we don't succeed in this thing that we want to do. So to me, the factory was this overwhelming presence. This hung over our town. In Elizabeth, we have the Singer Factory, which has been there for 150 years.
Yeah, and now it's gone.
Yeah, and
is that Singer as in sewing machine Singer?
Yeah.
And Scott and I we were talking today. I took a little walk on the beach today, and Scott and I are chatting, and we realized we were doing this show, so we had to stop. But I started to say to Scott, one of the beautiful things about having more importantly in our show is Joe Normal's video, but also on our show, is that who would have thunk that the factory would burn down? But Joe immortalized that beautiful and history-laden building in his video. So, you know, you don't want it to burn down, but it's sad because of all the memories and all the families that have connections. But Joe had the appreciation of what it meant to put it in a video, and we play a tiny little part in giving him a chance, not just through his song, but telling us, you know, what it meant to him and other people like him. So it's there, at least on, you know, on the internet forever.
It's a great song. It's super catchy, and I was chatting with him about it after I, you know, listened to it about 100 times.
Yeah,
the bass part, among other things, is very McCartney, very busy, very melodic, very interesting. And he's like, "I can't believe you picked up." I'm like, "Hey, I play bass, I play guitar, I play drums, I sing. I'm really
don't forget keyboard,
honed into that stuff." So he was really appreciative. That had nice things to say about. Check it out, Joe Normal, Small Town Factory. Just pretty much available anywhere. The video, of course, is on YouTube.
It's so good.
Following that, we had our very first United Kingdom broadcast.
That's right.
And not our first United Kingdom guest, so we were quick to point out.
Yep.
And during the show, we had a across the pond count. Every time Dave said across the pond, we went ding, and there was a across the pond counter on the bottom of the screen. I think you got up to 19 across the ponds, or 9. I forget how many times.
Yeah.
Becky's band Fury is tearing it up over in the UK and Europe. They've been on tour, and they're gearing up for another tour this summer. And I just have a small clip. She's just so delightful. We decided to change the background of our show just for her, to immortalize her coming on as our first UK guest.
Scott and I, we have if you look at the background on the show right now, this is the kind we use all the time, but Scott put something special together for tonight. Here we go. Look at that. And then,
I mean, she is an amazing bass player.
She really is.
Talked about her Rickenbackers and her heroes like Lemmy, and she was just really great. And things like, you know, hey, this is like a law thing too. Why don't you just come to the United States? I can get you in the Stone Pony. And she's like, you know what it takes to go from the UK to the United States? The money and the equipment, and where do we stay? And we need a visa and all these things.
It was fascinating.
Idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah. And the other thing that this is funny. Like I'm just talking to Tommy right now. I like it. We're like, Tommy, thanks for coming to our party. The thing that really, in a good way, surprised me. So you saw the picture, and she has like a very sort of heavy metal, glamorous kind of look, and she's in a heavy metal, very heavy band, and much like Nina DiGregorio, her demeanor was just very musically and intellectually quiet and thoughtful. And she's very intellectual, and sort of the label, perhaps we might call it the marketing aspect of her career, is one thing, and she's doing very well with it. But the minute she opened her mouth, there was just a real reflective, wisdom-filled thoughtfulness about, you know, her career and in the UK. And like Scott said, a big wonderful rabbit hole we went down was what it would take for her and her band to come here. Something I would have never thought of.
I thought of that right away. I have an extra room in my house, and I'm only a mile away from Tony, so she's squared away. The band, they can stay in the bus.
That's it.
That's right.
They can stay at Scott's house.
Yeah.
Sleep with the 18 golden retrievers.
So after Becky and the across the pond count, we moved on to Dad's Band Amendments. A little
this is a
homage
fun one
to my dad. And a list of things that he had told me over the years as a musician, and we made a list, and I just said on the show that I told my father all these things, and he goes, "That sounds like something I would say." Dad, you did say it. I wrote it down. So I'm not going to play the clip because it's just us, but that's a great show.
That was a fun show. Band amendments. What a great word.
Asshole came up like a gazillion times because that's part of the band amendments. Yeah. Don't be an asshole. Use dynamics. And
Tommy, you came up in that show a lot. We talked about you a handful of times. We did. in a good way. My
father's very upset with Tom that he doesn't put his drums in cases. That's not a band amendment, but that's definitely a thing.
I was waiting for
Doesn't
that.
he put his drums in cases? What the hell is the matter with that guy? we did another intermezzo show called Encourage or Discourage. That was about do the people that you see on the internet encourage you or discourage you from playing your instrument.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, you got 6-year-old Caleb playing drums, playing Rush perfectly, and then you can't play Smoke on the Water. You know, so it's kind of crazy.
I have a question before. I know Scott's doing beautiful live on the spot editing. I know what he's doing right now, and it's good because it's lasting a long time. I was in a deposition probably 15, 20 years ago.
I'm editing this out.
No, it's really good. And my court reporter's son is Matocaster. And he was a guitar phenom at 12 or 13 or 14. He's all over YouTube. Have either of you heard of him? Because he's probably now like a 30-year-old man. All right, clip it, cut it out.
Not at all, but I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
After that show, we brought in Rick Taylor of Vintage Guitar.
That was company. A good one. Yeah.
They've offered us guitars, and we still have to take them up on the offer.
Wait, hold
They're
on.
going to make us a couple of guitars and sell it to us at artist prices. But we did get that, yes.
We get it on camera properly. There we go.
They bought the Silvertone name, and they've been making these pedals that knock off the Silvertone tone. So you don't need the amp. You can get the pedal and change any amp into a Silvertone tone. That's a very sought after tone.
It sounds fantastic. And one thing that happened live during that show, and I heard
microphone. Get on mic. God damn it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I've got right here. Or my dog is eating a guitar pick. Bo is eating a guitar pick right now. Hey. I can't get. Wait, hold on. Here we go. There, see that?
Yeah.
Right there. That is a vintage amp that I randomly happen to have. I could have done that instead of, but I'm dumb.
Vintage is the brand name of the amp.
Yeah, right.
It's where we had the guy that runs that company.
Yeah. So randomly that I got on Facebook Marketplace is an old amp from his company that I noticed in the middle of the interview, which was kind of cool.
So doing amazing things at Vintage Guitar. They invited us to NAMM and couldn't go because we're working. But anyway, they were really nice. They offered us a couple of guitars at artist cost, and they offered me a custom guitar if they want me to build, and if they wanted to build one for me. But they're taking the old, making it look, keeping the styling, the old styling,
the vibe, if you will.
But they're tricked out inside, like
the
electronics, and they work with the legendary Trevor Wilkinson to do these bridges, and there was a whole rabbit hole of different things they're doing over there at Vintage Guitar.
We geeked out is what we did. Yeah,
we talked about is getting to see Leo Fender's factory. He was invited for a tour, and you could see he was emotional talking about Leo Fender.
Yeah, he really was, and what a great guy.
That's his guy.
And we've done a few shows where if you like to geek out about equipment.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorites. Tone King was a great one.
Dylan Talks Tone.
Dylan Talks Tone. That to date is my favorite geek out episode.
Crazy geeky stuff.
We did 1 hour on guitar pickups.
And it sounds like it'd be a bore, but it was amazing. What goes into that? How many windings? What kind of wire? And
there's 3 ingredients: magnets, wire, and whatever insulator
but you get all
put
these
on.
Different things out of it. The windings and everything. Anyway, here is Rick Taylor talking about seeing Leo Fender's workshop for the first time.
The guy goes, "You want to see something?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, opens this door, and it was a door that went into Leo's office that they haven't touched ever since he passed away. That you go into this room, and there's still all these drafts of he was building his own boat, and it's covered in dust. And then you go through this other door, and it's his room that's pictured many times with the box with all the necks. And that he had that had all the pickups that he would try stuff out with. God, it's giving me chills right now.
Yeah.
The genius of that man, it's hard to underestimate how much he did for the industry and the reverence that so many of the great builders have for that guy, and certainly you look at these designs and you got guys like Trev that improve upon them a little bit, and certainly Tom Anderson and Suhr Guitars, these high-end guys that make phenomenal Fender kind of guitars and have tweaked them in their own way. But the whole idea of having interchangeable parts and being able to customize a guitar easily
So yeah, he very, very knowledgeable and super nice. And he's
Yeah.
also working with us to get us some high-end guests for next year.
Yeah, he was wonderful. By the way, I have to report in. This is the famous guitar when we had Dave Gellis of Blood, Sweat, and Tears on. Bo, my dog, ate 3 of my potentiometers.
That's
and
knobs for you,
knobs. Yeah, and they've never been found. And today, here's what's left of the pickup he just ate.
He ate a pickup too. Oh God.
Or pick, not pickup. Pick.
The dog's never going to make it as a roadie.
No.
I tell you, at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Fender exhibit, the part of, I don't know if it's exhibit, it's part of the, when I was there, it wasn't a special thing. It was just the regular exhibit for Fender. Was amazing. I stood there and not even a guitar player. And I it was probably 45 minutes of reading, and I could have stayed there for another 2 hours just going through everything. It's spectacular.
Yeah, there's I mean, we take it for granted. I mean, I've got a guitar behind me right here that Von York, the now defunct, unfortunately, Von York company, but built by Killer Bee Guitars, one of my endorsing companies. That's an amazing Stratocaster type guitar. But the design that Leo came up with is basically there, but it's like Rick said, it's tweaked in their own way, right?
And one of the things we've talked about is that, so here we are at 2024. Leo designs that, I think, in the 50s.
Yeah.
That basic body design that some guy just puts together 75 years ago is still the way almost all guitars, or, you take Gibson out of the mix, or say 50%, give half to Leo, and then half to Gibson, right? It's 75 years later when we have cars that could drive themselves, a zillion years after we've been on the moon, and yet that design, that body design, and the idea of 2 or 3 single coil pickups is still standard of the art.
And it's pretty amazing.
It's like a mousetrap.
Yeah, you're right. And how to build a better one, and we can't. Yeah.
So after Rick, we had on Tommy, and a good friend of Tommy and I is Don Jameson.
Yeah.
Don was gracious enough to come on. He's been threatening to come on. I finally nailed him down to a date where he wasn't busy or playing or doing That Rocks, which is an internet show that he was doing Eddie Trunk and Jim Florentine, another 2 pals of ours. And he was hilarious. And that's a show I co-hosted because I thought that Don was going to eat Dave alive with fart jokes and stuff. Now, he did some fart stuff.
He talked about upper decking.
Yeah, Dave was a little uncomfortable during that segment.
Because I am a lawyer in my real life.
But
I think the danger would lie in since Dave, at the time didn't really know him that well, that he wouldn't know if Don was kidding or not.
Right.
That would be the real danger.
Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We talked about how Florentine, don't ask him where the bathroom is; he'll send you the other direction and shit like that.
Yeah.
But, we asked Don. We asked him to give us his best drunk story, and he had this to say about Marilyn Manson's appearance on that metal show.
We had Marilyn Manson on, and he shows up annihilated drunk at like 11 in the morning. We're taping at noon. And he's literally drinking from a bottle of his own absinthe.
Oh, no.
He has his thing, Mansonth. And he's drinking his own absinthe. He's wasted. And we get down on the set, and he puts the bottle, he brings the bottle with him onto the set, and the segment producer comes out and says, "Hey, we can't really have that in the camera shot. Can we get you a cup for that?" And he goes, "Yeah, no problem." So the PA comes over with a styrofoam coffee cup and puts it down on the table, and he pours the absinthe in it, and the whole thing disintegrated instantly.
Well, they say absinthe it has some weird qualities about it. It's a hallucinogen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what Marilyn Manson needs, more hallucinogens.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a walking hallucinogen. So that was a lot of fun. Don was fantastic. We had a great discussion and a lot of laughs.
And really, that was, we've had a lot of shows that have had really great attendance, so to speak, and that's way up there.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. He definitely brought the peeps to watch the show.
He did. He put seats in the chairs, so to speak, as Tommy would say. Except Tommy would say asses in chairs, but we don't talk like that on this show.
Let's see. Where's that? I'm looking for another clip. Talk amongst yourselves.
All right, we will talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah, Don did his album. I helped Don do his album. I forget which one it was. He did it live at Bar Anticipation, a comedy album. And Ron Bumblefoot Thigh was on the album. He played the national anthem and then did a guitar solo and everything before.
Oh, wow.
Weren't you there?
I did. Yeah, I managed to sneak in at the end there and get a picture of Richard Christie that our good friend Big Daddy Abel took for us. And he had his finger over the lens of his camera. Over his phone camera. Come on, really? Big Daddy goes, "Oh, it didn't come out. Can we take another one?" And Richard goes in his voice,
"Oh no,
man, I gotta go. I gotta catch a train."
That's a good impersonation.
So I don't have a picture of Richard Christie, sadly.
Wow,
that's my Richard Christie story. So after Don, we had on Gene Potts and Sal Mara of Colossal Street Jam.
That was a fun one.
That was a fun show. Now, I think
the surprise.
Gene said maybe 5 minutes of talking, and Sal, it was the Sal show.
Oh yeah,
Sal,
he was shot out of a cannon,
and Gene just let him go. Let's let him go off. And one of the stories he told us was about playing with Leslie West when he was a teenager, and this is how it went.
And we were my band at the time. We needed someone to help us, get a demo together. And Leslie's like, you know what? Just Karen, give me $500. Tell the guys to come up to Austin in New York. Because he had a studio, they converted a farm into a studio.
Okay.
And we went up there and we spent a weekend with him. And I got to tell you, for a 19-year-old kid, and it was we had a great time. He was really a tough character because he's very abrasive when he talks. So, I come from an Italian family, so loud voices don't, I don't even flinch. I'm like, whatever. So he got a little nasty. And our drummer at the time, who was actually with Gene, he was our drummer for a while in Colossal. He doesn't take crap from anybody, still to this day. And he turned to Leslie was like, to George, he goes, "Why don't you go in the other room while the musicians work on the arrangement?" And my drummer was like, "Really?" He goes, "How does it feel to be a has-been?" Right in his face. I go, "Oh my God, I'm going to get beat up by Leslie West."
He was terrific.
That's a great moment.
We have to have Sal on and just do a Sal show.
We had
so many stories like that one, helping Steve Winwood and Hammond B, fixing the Hammond B.
He was
all kinds of
crazy. And it was so easy. All we had to do was say, "Hi, Sal."
Sal has such a big personality. Now, Gene, who's amazing in his own right, amazing singer, another big personality. But Sal's personality is so huge.
Right. Oh, it was great.
You actually forget what an incredible guitar player he is, because when you think of Sal, it's not like, oh, he's the greatest guitar player, because he's Sal and he's so big. But if you ever sit back and just watch him play, it's like, wow, every project that Gene and Sal do, I'm a fan of.
Yeah, we talked about Sal's rig and how it's really simple, and he used a whole lot of effects, and
we did a lot of time on that.
A lot of stuff like that. And then, of course, they just got a record deal, and they have a record out now. So check that out, Colossal Street Jam with Gene Potts and Sal Marin.
And before you put the clip on, this is how dumb I am. So Scott and I are emailing or texting before the show, and Scott's talking about Colossal Street Jam. And I think, he has a gig, and it's called Colossal Street Jam. And I didn't realize, no, that's the name of a band that we'll be interviewing them. And Scott said, because I know all of Scott's activities because he put me as a member of his personal calendar and his work calendar. So I see Colossal Street Jam, and I'm like, all right, I guess tonight Scott has a gig. I didn't realize that it was.
Tom's able to see my life through my calendar as well.
So
what kind of gigs.
Yeah,
you can't have my calendar and Scott's calendar clicked at the same time. It's like crossing the streams in Ghostbusters. It's like
worlds collide.
It's insane.
Yeah,
you blow up a Bob's Ale House somewhere.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it's also Guns for Hire. You might be used to hearing their cover bands, Guns for Hire.
Right.
So that might have been a confusion that Guns for Hire is playing at the Colossal Street Jam.
I was so confused, and I thought, am I missing something? And I like to watch you guys play, and I thought, oh, is Scott like guest guitar playing at a jam session? It's called Colossal.
No, we have a show to tape tonight. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's a show. That's the name of the band. I forgot.
Yeah, I was completely confused.
So speaking of venues, we had JD Everhart, otherwise known across the internet and especially TikTok as the Grumpy Sound Guy.
He was fun.
I don't know how many followers he's got now. His videos, he does like a video every 10 seconds, it seems, but it's it's like Dad's Band Amendments on steroids. Like
I like that self-edit, but we got the first part of your
very
edit.
angry guy. So here he is talking about doing sound for a small room.
In my reels and my shorts. Shorts are just about, it's just a list of stuff that pisses me off, you know? And one of them is these venues like you're describing where the band is kind of an afterthought. You know, It's not a purpose-built venue where you're like a theater where the stage is the center of the attention of the room. The room is positioned to put you looking at the stage. It's really going to depend on the drummer and the guitar player. You know, if those guys can behave and really keep it under control, then what I typically do in that environment is mix smarter, not harder. You know, so I'm not going to put more in the sound system that needs to be in there. So I may only put single 18 subs in, maybe only one single 18 sub, and just put a little bit of kick in there for presence.
Yeah. Oddly, I have to say that, and he was very upset with the sound quality of his interview. I said, "You're a sound guy and you called in with a cell phone." There's nothing I could do about it. So it was
an internet issue. Yeah.
But that being said, he had a really great interview.
Yeah. And you know what? It was a perspective on geeking out that we hadn't done before.
Yeah.
You know, just a whole different perspective, because we've done shows about pickups. We've done shows about guitars. We've been about amps. This show in the last 5 years has probably devoted 5 hours to tubes, you know?
Yeah.
But we had never done a show about what it's like to be a sound person when you're the interface between a band and their audience.
Well, we covered so much on that show, even little things like, as a musician, the etiquette that you have to show and the respect you have to show a sound guy.
Yeah.
Adam, like, you got your stuff set up and you're like, "Hey man, I can't hear myself in the monitor," like I was doing to you, Tommy, the other night. Tom was working the board in that very room he's in, and I'm yelling at him, "I can't hear myself. Listen, I know I'm working on Jimmy's thing. Shut up and let me work on his stuff first."
I've watched Tommy operate. He's smooth. He's calm in that very basement.
And I go, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Very calm, very smooth, and he gets it done.
Like I've seen like guitar players setting up, and the sound guy's like 2 inches from the guy's amp setting up the mic, and the guy hits a chord. I'm like,
wait, how was that, Scott? What was that? Okay.
It was a very loud noise.
Well, sound guy, you know, when you say sound guy, all you're doing is saying the guy in the band that makes the most money is really what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's they work really hard, man. All those wires and things. Yes. And when a problem breaks out, you know, it'd be a feedback issue or a broken mic or whatever the case may be, or a bad wireless or a battery, whatever it is, they're there. They're on point, and they're on. I mean, especially the guys at Bar A, and the Pony, with some of the bigger venues we play, the professional sound guys, they're just on point. And Pony's even got their own sound guy just for monitoring and another sound guy for front of house.
That's interesting.
That's
two different boards. And, you know, some of these guys, too, I've worked with so many soundmen over the years, playing in bands, employing them, and just watching how they work. And they really have to take charge. I don't know, Scott, you remember when we played the Smoking Jackets at Jenkinson's, Bobby DeBolt, who I know since the late 80s, a great sound guy. He says, "You see that line? Don't step past that line."
Yeah, he will not let you on the stage with a wire.
Yeah.
Even. Nothing.
Wow.
And he goes, "Stage left guitar, you, bass player, you."
Completely in charge.
And you know what? And at first you feel like, wait a minute, this asshole's treating us like third graders. And all of a sudden you realize, wow, that was easy and that was fast and it sounds really good.
Really good. Yeah.
And I would think, as a sound person, you know, if this band sounds great oh, the band sounded great. If there's a problem, what the fuck's wrong with the sound guy?
Right.
They're going to get the blame, but not the credit, I would think. Yeah.
I mean, I just heard a story today where they put a big band in a small venue. That's what Grumpy Guy was talking about.
Right.
And the band was loud. Well, you got a 5-piece band in a small room. What did you think was going to happen? Why don't you just hire a trio or a duo, you idiot?
Right.
So
right.
the venue itself was the issue. No matter what the sound man did, he couldn't get this band to be low volume. There's no way you can keep a 6-7-piece band with drums and keys and guitars and everything. There's a certain level of volume it's going to be no matter what.
Right. That's why he's grumpy.
I even sound grumpy when I say that. So, and we ended up we rounded up the end of the year with a really great special, the Edward Van
It was
Halen
okay. I don't
special,
know. Wait, there we go. It was okay.
Which is our highest rated show to date. Something like
almost
10,000 views on YouTube, and I don't know.
I mean, they watched the whole thing too.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half, and we brought Phil X back. Joe Barricata from Joe Barricata Band, who's done a lot of Van Halen shows at Bar Anticipation that Tommy's one of the owners of. We had Brad Capanjola and Buddy Blanche, who play Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth, respectively, in a band called Romeo Delight, doing Van Halen covers. And, of course, the great Henry Vaccaro Sr.,
our surprise
one
guest.
Of the owners, our surprise guest, one of the owners of Kramer Guitar, talked about Ed Van Halen and how that story came to be. Is the next segment. And here
all right. You had a salesman who ran into one of Eddie's people?
How the Eddie thing came about?
Right.
It's crazy. Okay, Dennis Berardi, who was the president of the company, was in many ways a marketing genius. He could sell ice cream to the Eskimos and sell them ice in the winter. So he is on a plane ride to California to meet with the president of Guitar Centers. When the plane lands, he gets off and he sees a young man who's got a tour jacket on. It said Eddie Van Halen World Tour. So Dennis accidentally or on purpose meets a guy in the restroom and says, "Hey, were you on that tour?" He says, "I'm Eddie's guitar tech." 15 minutes later, they're at Eddie's house. And that's how this whole thing started.
Wow. That's crazy.
From a chance meeting on an airplane going to California for another reason.
So he had a lot of great backstories about Eddie and Valerie coming to the shop, and Kramer and Neptune right here in Neptune, New Jersey.
Yeah,
it's like from my house.
Yeah.
Taking his whole entourage to Atlantic City, and
it was unbelievable.
He didn't have any money, so he opened a line of credit for Eddie Van Halen.
It was and my favorite thing on that whole piece of the show was Scott and I knew that Henry was doing the show, and but what we did was we made it a surprise guest. So everyone, if you look on the screen, was there already except for Henry. We sort of slid him in. To the look on Phil's face, he was like he was like a 5-year-old seeing Santa Claus for the first time, and it was so genuine.
You see the video. David announces who he is and everything, and if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And Phil just goes, "Wow."
Yeah, his whole face lights up.
He goes, I have questions. All right, let's just settle in, and then I'll come back. And
we were going to give the whole floor to Phil, and he needed to calm down. He was because when you think about it, I mean, Henry, think of that man's resume. He Kramer Guitar, even before the affiliation with Eddie. I mean, that my second or third or fourth, maybe fifth guitar. But I had one of those fork neck, aluminum neck Kramers. They were legendary and a little different. So you would think if he ended his career there, he would be in the pantheon of guitar makers. But he didn't.
Right.
He teams up with Eddie.
And now he's got the Vaccaro guitar company. He's bringing back the aluminum neck, and he talked about that. He even demonstrated removing the headstock, and
it's crazy
how it's at lightweight now, and that was really awesome. And of course, the tribute from all the guys on the panel was really terrific, and everybody got a chance to talk and tell stories. And I told my story when Dad met Eddie Van Hagen, as he said to us, and thought he was an asshole, and it was a lot of fun. Everybody had a huge a huge great time for doing that show.
Thanks to the shorts that you guys have been putting out, I've been able to catch a lot of these shows, not in their entirety,
right?
Which has always been the problem. Is I can never watch the shows just because it's so long and my schedule is just crazy.
Right.
It's really cool that I catch some of the shorts you guys have been putting out and getting a flavor for the episodes, and I want to thank you for that, because no one wants to sit around and listen to me talk about rights and bands for an hour and a half.
Well, some of us do.
I guess we do. Well, I guess we pulled it off though.
One of the things I want to do tonight is talking a little bit behind the scenes type stuff, and one of the things that we tried to do this year, or last year rather, and this year, is using AI, that awful thing, to take our shows and make them into little clips.
Yeah.
So we've been using a program that takes the entire, let's say, even if it's an hour and a half, and divides it into bite-sized clips that are no longer than a minute, and puts it in the format for TikTok with the captions, as you saw, because I used some of those clips tonight, and emojis and stuff, and it gives it a score and tells you, how it grabs the viewer, or if it's interesting or it's not interesting, or what needs to be taken out, and you can tweak everything. But it's given me hours and hours of my life back.
Yeah.
Because to watch an hour and a half show and divide it up into things that I think is interesting is one thing, but it's sort of like having the AI take it apart and present to me, I think this is interesting, and then I can tweak it from there, which is 1,000,000% easier.
And you know what I like about it? I mean, coming from the perspective that I do think AI will end the world on some level, 100% of our show is real. Like this conversation right now will at some point, be the subject of a bunch of little shorts we put out. But all AI, Scott and I are letting AI simply parse it out and do the technological piece of it. And, and put the captions in. So if someone wants to secretly watch Guitar Tales while they're at work, they could do it with the sound off and just look at it. But 100% of our content and the conversations, they're organic and they're real. And we hope, when the time is right, they're heartfelt. So AI, that's a good example of where AI gives Tommy and the Tommies of the world just a little bite-sized chunk, a little Reese's peanut butter cup.
Because at the end of the day, that's how we get paid. That's how we get views.
Yeah.
I don't think AI is going to end the world, though, because if that were true, someone would have already come back from the future to stop it.
That's true. That's true.
So
speaking of the future, do you want to talk a little bit, David? In it's sort of
yes, I know what you're saying. I'll say
it's got to be a little secret, but we can kind of allude to the guests of the future that we have.
So
guests
we have
the future.
Yeah. Tommy. Tommy.
That's
Tommy. I can't say.
I didn't wear this by accident.
Yeah. Oh, so Tommy, that was a great segue. We are working on something. We have had some degree of contact, and we can't really take it farther than that. So that leaves a very small handful of folks. But and we don't have any promises or commitments yet, but that's something we're working on.
Yeah.
And then Scott, you talk about the other one.
We're working on we're bringing on Mooch, to our friend Mooch Anthony, to talk about AI and technology ruining the music business.
If only he had opinions.
Yeah. He was supposed
to. If only he thought he knew what he was talking about.
We almost had him on, and then something happened. He got sick, or something happened, and we couldn't put him on.
Yeah.
He's finally going to speak his mind, you mean?
Yeah. Let's see. We have a wonderful artist coming on. She's a painter of guitars.
Oh, come on. Talk about the big one, Scott. The big maybe one. The big maybe one. I know.
Private chat me, so I'll make sure I'm talking about the right thing.
Oh, I'll do it for you. There is someone who has a family member who is internationally as big a star as there ever was, and this person is still a pretty damn big star, and we're working on that. We could say that much, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
But what's interesting in terms of where we're at right now, and we have a few people we're bringing on who have small town, small life, beautiful stories. We have a few people we've committed to because that's really those are our roots, and we're never going to look away from our roots. What we almost take for granted, but won't let us take for granted, are lots of people who have been on the show who work with extraordinarily internationally famous people.
Yeah.
And now we're kind of knocking on the door of just, people who are household names. It's not really what started us, but as we evolve, the two people we're vaguely alluding to, whom Tommy is helping us vaguely allude to.
It's cool because the higher level of guests we get, they know people and they know somebody and they know somebody else, So we're trying to book a guest through Rick Taylor, the Vintage Guitar Company.
Right.
He's got a whole stable of famous artists that and bands that you've definitely heard of, which you can't really talk about. But we have all these irons in the fire. And as I said in the beginning of the show, it's harder to nail down some of the higher end guests.
Right.
It takes, what used to take weeks or months can now take almost a year to nail down a date.
Yeah.
Even remotely like this it takes a long time to nail down the date because you're going through management and stuff. You're not directly working with the artist like we were in the early days.
And it's not even a resistance. It's a matter of connecting and
they all want to do the show. It's just a scheduling thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on tour. All right. So when you're interviewing some of our early guests like me, if I'm not touring with the Smoking Jackets, in other words, if I don't have a gig, I'm free.
Right. Well, like one of our biggest
on a world tour.
Yeah, one of our biggest early gets was the great Steve Conti, and he tours all of.
To nail Steve down on a date took almost a year.
It did. He was touring. I'd love to do it, but I'm in Germany right now. I'm touring in Germany.
I'm in Switzerland. I love to do it. I'm here. I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, he's touring with the New York Dolls. And that was one of our biggest early gets, and he gave a phenomenal show. Like that was a lot of fun, and he's a friend of the show now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at an hour and a half, I think it's a good time to wrap it up and look forward to a great 2024.
Yep, absolutely. I like that.
Tom Jannarone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drummer
this is fun.
The Smoking Jackets popping in and joining us.
And longtime friend of the show.
Law of the Band.
He's a two-timer. That's like the SNL thing, right? You have the 5-timers club. You're the 2-timers club.
Yeah.
The 2-timers club.
I love it. All right, there we go.
A couple of quick program notes. We are replaying every one of our shows, live streaming across 4 platforms now, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That would be, let's see, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever.
Yeah. Facebook.
Instagram and Facebook. Those 4 channels.
And remember, you could get everything audio only. So if you have a long drive in front of you, you can get the audio only, and then you don't have to look at these things right here, which is probably a benefit.
Our faces, yeah.
Yeah. I like the way you did that, Scott. For our audio only audience, no one saw me twirling my finger around my face. Very nicely done.
We got the Guitar Tales merch, including the pint glass from Bob's Ale House is available. I think it's like $16. It's to be the talk of the town.
Yep.
Shirts and hats and stuff. And you can even download the theme song for the show for 99 cents if you want that as your phone ringer. I don't know why I would want to do that.
Penned by me.
Written by David himself.
So to be clear, I have never made a penny off of that show. Somebody out there has the ability to make us 99 cents. So please buy my song. Todd Yasui of season 2 claims to have co-written it with me. So I'll send him half the money if you buy it. If you buy the show,
not if I represent you, you won't give him half. I'll tell you that right now.
I like that. We will litigate.
That's right.
Let's end the show with Big Daddy Abel of the Amish Outlaws because he's one of my favorite guys ever.
Best bumper ever.
And second guest ever on Guitar Tales.
That's
and
right.
We'll see you next time, right, Dave?
Absolutely. Have a great week, everyone.
I'm number 2. No, I was the second. That's right. I was the second one. The second on Guitar Tales, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching it right now. I'm Big Daddy Abel, the Amish Outlaws. I gotta go back to work. Here we go. Guitar Tales. Watch it.